All right, I am live. Good evening, everybody. This is probably not my best angle, but we're going to stick with it. Welcome to my Pride Month Q&A stream. I do Q&A sessions every week during Pride Month, answering all kinds of questions about my transition, about queer people in general, LGBTQ community stuff, and all that fun stuff. I do have some preloaded questions over here on an adjacent monitor. Very fancy. And I will also be taking questions from the chat. So yeah, feel free to drop in, send any questions you like, and we will talk about whatever we want to talk about. This is not my best angle, so I'm going to change that. There we go. I feel like that's better, except for the, blankets over here. It's been a while since I've done one of these. It's been a while since I put up any video, actually. Way too long. Trying to get my life together. It's tricky. There is absolutely no way for me to tell how many people are watching this right now. So that's going to be challenging. I cannot tell if I have any audience whatsoever right now. Thank you, YouTube. Doing great. Doing well. Okay, well, I guess we'll just have to hope. So the first question that I got from my anonymous queue here: when is your surgery date? My surgery date is the first week of May 2022, which is not close. I would prefer for that to be a lot sooner, but I don't make the schedule, and it actually kind of works out because I need time to finish my hair removal prior to surgery, so that's going to be a thing that is time consuming. I actually just got out of my first laser hair removal for my surgery about 2 hours ago. So fun stuff. Yeah, that was not pleasant. It was not as bad as laser hair removal on my face was, but it was still quite intense, and I did have to take short breaks because it's a lot. It's a lot. It hurts. It's not a pleasant experience. Definitely really driving home the I am committed to getting this done aspect of this. So that's something. Oh, I forgot. One of the things I planned on doing is burning a trans pride candle for this event. I know that's a little silly, but when else am I going to burn this? So we will light the inaugural trans pride candle. Ta-da! Now it's official. I'm sure that was my most flattering angle ever. We're going to get through the stream together, everybody. Yes, so laser hair removal. Just got out of my first session for that. Thoroughly unpleasant. Did not disassociate, so that's a plus. That was my primary goal with that, was not leaving the room, so to speak, as I tend to do during electrolysis and laser, which you're in trouble when your therapist is like, actually, this might be a healthy way for you to survive this situation. And I'm like, that's not good. Yes, so making progress on my hair removal for surgery, which different surgeons require different regions, and this one is one of the milder ones, thankfully, but still an unpleasant prospect. Yeah, it feels like a rubber band being repeatedly snapped over your skin. So in middle school, it was like a thing. I don't know if this is specific to my experiences through middle school or not, but it was a thing to stretch rubber bands and then snap them on people. I have no idea how common that experience is, but that is what it feels like. And considering the area involved, you can imagine that that's a little unpleasant. Fortunately, they gave me a specially homebrewed lidocaine mixture that they themselves mixed there at the doctor's office. So I'm actually still numb, which is a very strange sensation. I don't know how to begin to describe that, honestly. It's really weird. Yeah, anyone who's had lidocaine before can tell you it's a weird feeling having I'm in the shower after this, trying to wash off all the lubricant and lidocaine that they left on me and everything. And I'm just like, I can't tell if the soap has come off because my skin doesn't feel anything. It's really weird. Moving on, we're going to move on to next questions. So the next question that I got was, how much is your surgery going to cost? That is a good question. I don't actually know exactly how much this is going to cost. Fortunately, my insurance is theoretically supposed to pay for it. But ballpark figure low end is $30,000, which is a lot. A lot. And so like, I don't know how if somebody who doesn't have insurance coverage would be able to pay for this at all. As I understand it, that's inclusive of the 5 days that I'll be stuck in the hospital recovering. So that's something. I'm hoping their food's pretty good because I'm going to be stuck there for a while. The consult alone was $1,500. That got billed through insurance, and I only ended up paying $25. But $1,500 to walk in the door, like this is big money we're talking about here. The hair removal was $1,700. I am supposed to be getting reimbursed by my insurance provider for that, but we'll see because I'm sure they'll find a way. I have a letter of medical necessity from my surgeon, and the actual invoice from this doctor who did my laser today says surgery prep. So I'm like, come on, guys, figure it out. Like, this is what we have to do to prep for my surgery. Yeah. So that is the cost of my surgery. The next, I think somebody rapid fired a bunch of questions about this because there's a lot in here that are all like from around the same time that are all related to my surgery, which is fine. This is like, I need to make a video about my upcoming surgery anyway. So this is, I guess, the preamble to that, the less like collected, less edited version. All right. So the next question I got anonymously was, what kind of bottom surgery are you getting? I added the word bottom in there because I don't need top surgery. There are other surgeries. I want to just point that out. Like, I could get voice surgery. I could get facial feminization surgery. There's a bunch of surgical options that I'm not interested in at this time, at least. My primary goal is to reduce my dysphoria associated with my genitals. So that is first on my list. First on the chopping block, so to speak. Yes, so the specific kind of surgery that I'm getting is called penile inversion vaginoplasty with peritoneal flap. So let's break that down. Yes, I did say penile inversion. That is what it is called. That is a very descriptive term for what is actually about to happen to me. Peritoneal flap is a little more interesting and frankly a little newer. And as a trans person, you're always like, you're on this edge where you're actually involved in pushing the science forward simultaneously as you're getting the help that you need. And it's a little unsettling because I'm 30 until next week. And honestly, I just want it to work, but I want it to work well also. So it's like, do I go for the newer technique that might produce a better result? Or do I go for a more surefire, proven, tested, older method? Like, you're constantly on this bleeding edge of medical technology and you're like, oh, that's a little scary. So it's like a risk benefit analysis. Like, I went with this surgeon partly because this is the surgeon that other people go to when other surgeons mess them up, which is a scary thing to think about. But most people don't want to, most surgeons don't want to touch you after you've been through a surgery this invasive. And finding a surgeon who will take those patients is really important because, like, first of all, it saves me a step. It's like, well, if you mess this up, I know exactly where I'm going. And secondly, because, like, I figure if they're good enough to take someone else's sloppy seconds, how good are they going to be with a clean slate? Like, there's a thought. Yes, so peritoneal flap is a newer variation of penile inversion vaginoplasty where they take peritoneal tissue, which is basically the lining that separates your skin from your organs. like your intestines, your stomach, all that stuff. So that is that lining there, and it's self lubricating, which is the important factor here because that will enable me both to have greater vaginal depth and it will also enable self lubrication to some degree. This is one of those areas where your surgeon will tell you, yeah, I don't know. Your mileage will vary. We'll see what you get. But self lubrication is not a guarantee of a vaginoplasty. So, and like, that's, I mean, it would be nice to not use lubrication, not external lubrication every time, but a lot of cis women also have to use external sources of lubrication in order to have sex. So, is it really that different? Um, but the primary purpose of this is the primary goal of this rather is in the self-cleaning aspect of it because you want everything to stay clean. And this will help a lot with that. So that was another goal of mine in terms of my surgical expectations. So hoping that things will go well with that. And again, I think I've chosen the right surgeon. It's just, oh, that lead time is awful. I've complained about it so many times on this channel, but like 18 months to get to the consult. That is a long wait. That is a long, grueling, awful wait. Like, I have done so much living in that time. Like, there was an entire pandemic in that time. I lost my job. I was unemployed for 5 months. I moved to a new house, as you can see. Yeah, like I've done a lot of living in that time. And then a year after that for my actual surgery date. It's a long time. Long time. But I'm getting there. And actually, I kind of needed the extra year lead up for the hair removal because I haven't done any of that. And as I'm going through this process, it's kind of making more sense why they didn't give me this information at the time that I asked for it, early on. They didn't have it, which is a little scary. But like, they didn't know that I was trying to go through them and through insurance for this. Apparently, I'm the first person to roll through this place that's going to try to get their insurance to cover it. So I'm a test case. Woo! Talk about bleeding edge. Again, love that. Love being the pioneer. Anyway, yeah, so they have the chart. They wouldn't give it to me because I didn't have my consult yet. And they're like, well, we can't really tell you what you should do until we get a look at you. And I'm like, fine, sure, yeah, fine, whatever. That makes sense. See you in a year and a half. Love that. I'm like, or I could just remove all the hair and it won't be a problem. No, cool. Okay, great. Thanks. I was a little frustrated by that, as I've talked about on multiple occasions, but the point is, I am good to go now. Just like I said, 2 hours ago, did my laser hair removal for the first session. I have to wait 4 weeks before my next one, and I have to do at least 6 of those. And basically, my plan is, given the time frame of 1 year, and this taking 6 months to do the laser part, if anything survives the laser, it's going to go through electrolysis, and I'm really, really hoping that I don't have to do electrolysis. Laser is grueling, but at least the pain is over pretty soon after. Electrolysis, you're swollen, you're a mess. Like, oh. The good news with this was that I was very scared of having flashbacks. This is going to get dark. My mother once performed surgery on an adjacent area with a pair of cuticle nippers, which for those of you who don't know, I actually have a pair here. These. Yeah, so I have some dark memories associated with that area. So I was very concerned about a flashback and like disassociating and just not really being present for it. Not that I want to be in the room, but like, I don't know. It was sort of this like, okay, is it worse to have an anxiety attack Or is it worse to disassociate? Or is it worse to have a flashback? Choose your poison. And fortunately, none of that happened. I was a little anxious as I was getting numbed and left totally alone for like 20 minutes. And I'm just like sitting there dreading, like, I have no idea how much pain I'm about to be in. I talked to other trans women who have gone through this, and they all told me, oh, it's nothing compared to phase. They are liars. This was pretty rough. I did not sob, so that was my other like threshold for success. I did whimper, which not my finest, you know. I would prefer not to have a doctor hear me be like, but yeah, I got through. We paused as much as I needed. The machine itself gets hot enough. This is a serious laser, which reminds me, I didn't post that photo to my Instagram. This is a very serious laser. It's 135 watts, which is, for anyone who knows anything about lasers, that is really intense. Like really, really bad. Shot directly at my genitals and other regions near there, and I'm just like, so that was fun. And the smell of burning pubic hair, you know, you get through, but you don't enjoy. I cannot tell if I have audio or not because the audio meter that's on here doesn't seem to be moving. So I'm curious if it will let me. Oh, that would be horrible, wouldn't it? Have a whole live stream with no audio. All right, well, let's move on to the next questions. All right, so how painful will surgery be? Well, that's a good question to ask after what I was just ranting about. I have been told that it is going to be the worst pain that I have ever lived through or am likely to ever live through. A lot of people compare it with childbirth, and obviously me having, the people who get this surgery aren't born typically with uteruses. So it's kind of not a useful comparison because we really don't have a way to tell. Yeah. So I don't know what to say about that, obviously. Yeah, I really wish there was a way to change the microphone when you would started the stream, but we in it now. Yes. So how painful will surgery be? I don't know. I will be unconscious during surgery, which apparently needs to be said because more than one person, including my therapist, has asked me that question. And I'm like, yeah, it's called penile inversion vaginoplasty with peritoneal flap. I would very much like to be unconscious for that. Thank you. Yeah, so I will be unconscious for my surgery, and then I will be staying in the hospital for 5 days, likely on opiates, which kind of scary. I've never done opiates before, so I've never been put under before, which is also scary for me because that'll be the first time I've ever done that. Yes, during my recovery, after I leave the hospital at home, I will be managing my pain with, I will have a prescription for more opiates, but I'm obviously going to try to avoid as much of them as I possibly can, given my addictive personality. So I will probably be managing my pain with Tylenol and ibuprofen. That's what the paperwork says. It's not probably, that's what it says. Which is good because I can do over-the-counter medications to manage my pain, which is fantastic. Like this is again an evolving form of surgery, so thankful for any blessings that I get with it. What else did they ask? Oh, I should probably mention sleep because obviously with the amount of pain that I'm talking about, I am probably going to have a hell of a time sleeping. Unsurprisingly. I will likely be taking sleeping pills during my stay in the hospital and possibly at home, but I don't think I'll need it based on the experiences of other people I've heard from. I guess after those first few days of terror, you like level off. My total recovery will take the better part of a year. Um, but the major parts where I really can't do much of anything is like 6 weeks to 3 months. Um, I'll be out of work for at least 6 weeks, which is going to be interesting for my coworkers. Um, yeah, 3 months. It's brutal. I'm also really concerned, and I don't post external shots of my house, but there are 9 steps between street level and the main floor of my house, and I'm like super concerned about climbing stairs because think about it, like this is where we're going to have surgery, and this is how you walk upstairs. Like, ugh, it's a little scary. So I'm concerned. I actually brought it up in my consult, and they're like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to walk in a kind of weird way, but no problem. We'll take care of you. You know, we'll make sure that you know how to move before we send you on back to your deathbed of like." Y'all don't know. If you're not on my Instagram, you don't know. I fell down the stairs inside my house, and it was really bad. Like I ended up getting x-rays on my elbow because I fell on my elbow and I thought I might have a hairline fracture because it was still hurting me like 12 days later. And I'm like, that's a little longer than I would expect that to hurt. Um, but I was fine. No fractures or breaks or anything. So obviously I'm good. But I had wicked bruising. Like it was my entire butt cheek and my entire thigh were just black. Like for 2 weeks. It was we had to I do my injections now on my butt. So normally we alternate sides. We had to stay to just the other side that I hadn't fallen on. Did I mention I fell twice down those stairs in the same day? Like it was brutal. I ended up getting grippies for my stairs because I'm like, nope, I am not gonna risk falling down the stairs during my recovery. Like that was my thought. I was like, if I do this during my recovery, I might have some serious trouble. So yeah, that was a scary day for me. Oh, this is another easy softball question, so I will gladly take that one next. Who will be performing your surgery? Aha. Well, I am seeing Dr. Bluebon Langner at NYU. So she is fantastic. I've seen so many good reviews of her. I really feel like she's this is why I edit. I really feel like she gets what this brings to the lives of trans people like me. She really gets the value of this and why this matters. And frankly, there's not a lot of women surgeons who do this. And I feel like that's super important because they get it, you know? And like, I know this is going to sound screwed up, but I don't feel like a man could really understand the value of a working vagina in my own personal life, not just for sexual purposes, if that makes sense. Maybe that's incredibly sexist of me. I have absolutely no idea, but I feel personally more comfortable with a woman being my surgeon, and especially one who seems to understand the value that this brings into the life of a trans woman like me. And frankly, her results are stellar. She's published. Like, yeah, no, she's top notch. And that's the other reason I was relatively okay with the super long waiting period to get a consult because it's like, yeah, this is how long it takes to get a world class surgeon, and I want to do this right. And that was like a thing for me. I was I was reluctant. I was I wanted to be done yesterday, you know? Like I feel like I wasted so much of my life living with incongruent genitals that I just wanted to get it done. And a thing that my gender therapist and my partner really tried to push into my consciousness is like, hey, it's more important to do this right than to do it quickly. As I said, I'm 30 until next week. I would really like to spend the next 50 whatever years of my life having stuff that works, that I'm not constantly having to get revisions on and dealing with constant pain or whatever. Like, no, I want it done right. And I feel like I made the right choice with this surgeon. Really happy with my choice. At least I'm gonna have to be because I'm locked in now. um, okay. Well, I should have read this question earlier. Why do you need to get hair removal prior to surgery? Okay. So it depends very heavily on the surgeon and their technique and what pieces of your existing anatomy are going to be. Someone I know uses the term origamied into your new parts. Um, I'm gonna say it this way. It's called penile inversion. You ever have an ingrown hair? Do you ever have now imagine what an ingrown hair would look like inside a vagina. We don't want to play that game. Yeah, basically more broadly, so this surgeon does more broad of an area than she needs to, which is good. Because you're not exactly 100% sure which pieces are going to end up in which area, and you want to make sure that none of it is going to cause a problem, specifically of the infection nature, because that is not good. And you do not want to have that experience. Yeah, so it's to keep me from dying. No biggie, just keep me from dying. Um, Yes. So even non-ingrown hairs can also create complications, and that's a thing that I do not want. Like complications. I'm good. I'm good. Let's not do complications. Let's make it simple. Let's have it be easy breezy, beautiful. um well, I probably just got demonetized, whatever. Yeah. Moving on. Next questions from the anonymous form. Do you still have facial hair? Yeah, I do. So hair is interesting when you have to know about it. um, so, okay. The hair that shows up during puberty, my first puberty specifically, is triggered by hormones. Male pattern hormones, so testosterone, causes male pattern hair development, which means like thicker, coarser arm hair. Leg hair is more or less the same, actually, which is a thing I feel like we don't talk about enough. Butt hair. Every trans guy will tell you, or every trans guy on testosterone will tell you, butt hair. It's a thing. Chest hair. That was another fun one. Fortunately, I never was any good at growing hair here, so I'm pretty set there. Yes. So when I started HRT, those hairs flip modes. But there's an entire other class of hair that your body grows, which is actually quite similar to your head hair. That once it's turned on, it never stops growing, like your eyebrows, for example. Facial hair is triggered by testosterone and does not turn off, even if you completely eliminate all of your testosterone, which, by the way, isn't healthy. Yes, cis women have testosterone. Let's just throw that out there. Yeah, so even if I have female typical levels of testosterone, I will continue to grow whatever facial hair I was growing before without medical intervention. So I did 6 sessions of laser hair removal and 19 hours of electrolysis on my face. And that was not enough. I need to go back for a lot more electrolysis, and I haven't resumed that yet because I moved and I don't want to keep the same electrologist I had before because it's like 2 hours in that direction. Yeah, so gonna have to find an electrologist near here that will actually take me and not be shitty to me. That is the real trick because this is sensitive, yeah. But I do still grow facial hair. I have to shave every 2 days or so, or it will show. Right now I'm wearing makeup, so it's hiding it a little bit better. But more often than not, I can, without makeup, without a mask, which best time to wear a mask is when I'm growing unwanted facial hair. Yeah, so have to shave. I can pull off shaving every 2 days and be fine. at a distance, which is great. I'm pretty fortunate that I never had that much facial hair. I was not really great at growing it. Like it was super slow even before HRT. That's the only difference that HRT actually made for me in terms of my facial hair was that it slowed down the growth by like a day. So I used to be able to pull off like one day, and now it's like 2 or 3, especially once I was doing electro. Yeah, so electrolysis. I'm not looking forward to that. I did have flashbacks during that. I did have panic attacks during that. It was pretty brutal, especially up by the nostrils. These are the worst hairs to get. Um, Along with chin, like the edge of your face, that's bad too. It's brutal. And the neck, you can't like swallow during, so you have to like hold completely still. And like, ooh. I've been choked before, not sexually, um, abusively. So that was a fun one. I was like, please take your hand off my neck. Thank you. Yeah, I've got some trauma, everybody. Yeah, so my arm hair did flip modes when I did HRT though, so that's great. I don't shave my arms. This is just what they look like, and even up close, there's like a little hair, but it's thin and fair, so it really doesn't show at all. Like I have to get like really close, and only like in the light can I see. Um, so that's good because I was having to shave my arms before, and it's like this is awful. Make it stop. I was having to shave my chest all the time, and I still have like 3 hairs in my cleavage. I'm just like, I actually have an IPL that I could use on that, so I might do that soon. I'm just like, maybe wait till after surgery, because like if it were up to me, I'd have no hair from like here down. um, one thing at a time. I haven't shaved my legs in a while. I work from home. We couldn't leave the house for like 14 months. Homegirl didn't have a reason. Like I'm in a 9-year relationship. I'm good. um, yeah, so I've been just kind of lazy about that, but I'm way too lazy to shave. I know that sooner or later I'm gonna bite that financial bullet. That's one of my like after surgery goals. It's like, yeah, let's just get rid of all this hair. Why? Why do we need it? Just be gone. So anyway, yes, I will continue to grow facial hair until I finish my permanent hair removal with electrolysis, and that's going to be a treat. Oh, well, here's the next question. Why can't you just wax prior to your surgery? Because that is not a permanent hair removal solution. Yes, you will occasionally thin your hair doing that. Like some of it won't grow back, but it is not first of all, it's not as fast, which is the important thing because I only have a year. And like it takes years of continuous waxing or plucking or whatever you want to do, similar techniques to get hair to stop growing permanently. And it's not a guarantee. And I need a much more surefire way of doing this. So laser, high powered, 135 watts, which again, anyone who knows anything about lasers, that is a lot. Oh, well, this person must be new to this channel. How does your family feel about all of this? Where do you want to begin? The abuse I was mentioning, that was all my parents. So there's your first one. I don't really care what they think of this because it's not going to change anything about what I'm doing. I haven't spoken to them in 7 years. That should tell you something. And that was long before I came out trans. I mean, unless you count when I was 5. But yeah, no, not going to happen. My mother did manage to get something through all of the places I have her blocked. I feel like I keep showing leg and it looks like I'm just wearing this. It's a top and I've got shorts. Like there's shorts here. I'm good. Like everything's covered. PG. We're good. Sorry. Yeah, my parents. What a segue. My parents did manage to get a message through to me at one point about what they thought of all this. And yeah, it turns out that you can't really block somebody on Gmail. Um, you can only have their messages forwarded directly to your trash bin. And if you need to go looking in your trash bin for something, you will find it. And that is exactly what happened. And yeah. So my mother sent me a religiously themed article about how no amount of hormones or genital mutilation will ever make me a real woman. And the ironic thing is, I agree. I was always a real woman. This surgery will not make me any more or less of the woman that I always was. So, right logic, wrong conclusion. Yeah, I am a woman and I will soon have a vagina. That is the situation. So yeah, my parents, yeah, that's a whole can of worms, but I don't really care what they think. My name is legally Mia. I am legally female. I am about to have a vagina. Like I've got good stuff going for me here. I'm good. I don't really need their approval. It would be nice to have, of course, but necessary. I don't really talk about my father's reaction a lot because he's such a non-element to be blunt about it. The last I heard from my father was that he was deeply concerned about all the hormones that I'm taking. I heard that through a third party, so I'm sure I'm getting the game of telephone, you know. But to assuage your fears, father, because I'm pretty sure you're watching, um, I am being monitored closely by one of the world's leading doctors on this stuff, so I'm good. Like I'm following standards that have been established and like updated constantly to make sure that I am safe and enable me to live a life that is authentic for my gender. So I'm doing great. She did even have my dosage since you worried about that. So if that helps, great. Yeah. So I do know that my sister uses my name and pronouns, at least when prompted by someone else. I'm not really sure what the situation is there. Um, so that's something. That's more than I can expect from my parents. But I haven't spoken to her in 6 years, and I don't really want to go there. But the short version is that she doesn't fully understand or accept the level of abuse that we were subjected to, and still has an ongoing relationship with my parents, with our parents, and I don't really feel safe having her in my life, which sucks. But she clings to her interpretation of those events as strongly as I cling to mine, and I'm not going to win. Like, I know that for a fact that I am not going to win this fight, so I'm just not going to have it. Frankly, I have too much other stuff going on to really be that concerned. Which sounds horrible. Like, I mean, yeah, it is what it is because that is the definition of existence. Oh, God. Well, here we are. I think we found the chaser section of the anonymous form. How soon after surgery will you be able to have sex? I believe I'd have to double check this. It's 3 months. Side note, I really love how sex positive the paperwork I got from my surgeon actually is. It's like, hey, you should explore yourself and figure out what works for you sexually. And, you know, if you feel comfortable, you should go ahead and have sex after 3 months. And I'm like, yeah, I should have sex. Thank you. I'm just trying to like, I was joking with another trans friend of mine the other day. I was like, I kind of wonder what this would be like if it was written by like some conservative hospital. It'd be like, you can allow a man to enter your woman cave, like when attempting to procreate after marriage. Like, um, anyway, yeah. So 3 months, 3 months, assuming that I feel up to it. It's based a lot on how I specifically am recovering from surgery. Um, Side note, it is so weird having a doctor ask you, like, do you have the ability to orgasm? That is a weird question to get asked by a doctor. And I was like, yep, yep, I do. I'm I'm good. Thanks. And they're like, okay, well, since you can now, it's very likely there's like 90% chance that you will be able to after. I'm like, would have preferred just at 100. um, but as I said to my gender therapist, I was like, listen, the ability to orgasm is not the primary goal that I have for my vagina. It's to reduce my dysphoria. And yeah, I mean, I literally today, I looked at myself in the mirror after getting out of the shower and said, "Oh, die." And I'm like, that is not a good way to feel about a part of my body. That seems minorly unhealthy. um, so, I've always been uncomfortable with this damn thing. So really eager to get parts that are congruent with my gender, or my sense of what my gender looks like on this body, and just eager to be through that nightmare. Like I've had 30 years of my life with the wrong damn parts, and I cannot explain to you how frustrating and exhausting that is. Like it's always there. Like I sit down, I walk, I put on clothing, I go to the beach. It's there all the time. And I can't not think about it because it's just so wrong. It's not supposed to be there. And it's so weird. And like I've obviously had this equipment for some time. I've obviously made do with it, but I never would say that I felt comfortable with it. And that's what I really want from my vagina is comfort. The ability to orgasm, the ability to have penetrative sex, great, nice to have, sure, cool, great. I just want my dysphoria to shut up for 10 seconds. Just shut up. Um, I have so many girl dreams, and like that was not like even in childhood, I had dreams where I was a girl in the dreams with congruent parts, which is waking up from that is hard because you're like, oh no, I was fine. Actually, shortly after starting HRT, I had my first ever dream orgasm that I woke up mid orgasm, and Amanda was like, "Are you dying?" Because like shaking, breathing, like what is happening right now? But yeah, that was interesting. I never had that in my first puberty. Like they tell you all the time in sex ed when you're going through male puberty that like, oh, nocturnal emissions and like dream orgasms, it's super common, just totally normal. I'm like, what's wrong with me? I've never had that happen. But sure, I get estrogen in me, shockingly, when I get the right, my brain running on the correct fuel, suddenly everything starts working. Yeah, but like that's the thing. Estrogen changes sexual function a lot for trans women, and I feel like it's something that we don't really talk about a lot because frankly, porn is pretty much the only place you ever really see depictions of trans women using those parts. And for me, it doesn't work the same way at all. Like functionally, my penis much more resembles a large clitoris at this point. Like in terms of function, in terms of like what it does, what works to get me over the finish line. Um, I've had to relearn how to have sex, and that's been really unsettling And I'm gonna get to do it again when I get a vagina. So that's gonna be an adventure. Um, and it's hard because like my therapist, my surgeon even has been like, well, that'll be exciting. And I'm like, no, it's really awkward. I'm like, I'm 30. I have a 9-year relationship. Like, I feel like I should know how my body works. Um, I'm trying to take that advice though. Like, let's treat it as an adventure, something we are going through together rather than something that's just hard. Yeah. All right, let's check more anonymous questions. Oh, well, again, I did say I think this is a chaser. So they are asking me if I prefer a particular variety of sexual contact. I am going to give a generic answer to that question. I am like any other woman. I like certain things. I don't like certain other things. Certain things work for me and my body and the way that I respond to stimulation, and other things do not work. Um, so those preferences are things that I share with my sexual partners, not with the internet. Um, that is my answer to that question. Okay, yep. The next question is, what are your orgasms like? Oh, God. Okay, all right. I can answer that one. The first and most important thing, and frankly, it's a source of validation for me, is that I no longer ejaculate. Which is great because that was one of the most dysphoria-inducing aspects of sex to me prior to HRT. Yeah. I always had sort of, I would call them full body orgasms. But that has intensified greatly since estrogen. Yep. What are your orgasms like? Loud. Yeah, no, I feel much more connected to my body now that it's running on the right hormones. Um, Even though it's still the wrong parts, they still function better than they did before. Um, so yeah, they're I'm doing all right. Thanks. Oh, good. An actual academic question. What is the difference between intersex and transgender? There we go. That is a good question. More like this, please. So, an intersex person is someone who is born with, the medical term is ambiguous genitalia or unexpected endocrinological effects. Yes, so basically, their body does something outside the typical endosex binary, meaning that they are either born with parts that don't quite look like a penis and don't quite look like a vagina, somewhere in between, perhaps. True hermaphroditism isn't really a thing in humans. Yes, so it's differently formed genitals or some sort of different thing than what's typical for endosex male and females. Yes, so another example of this is Klinefelter syndrome, which is basically, I think it's XYY, an extra Y chromosome. There's also androgen insensitivity disorder. There's a few other syndrome, not disorder, sorry. Yeah, there's a bunch of intersex conditions out there, but so that's the intersex side of things. A trans person is someone who is assigned a gender other than the gender they experience at birth. And that can mean a lot of things. In my case, I was assigned male at birth, which is the abbreviation AMAB, which you might see on places. And I don't really like that because it's just another way to really say that I was once a man, and I'm like, nope, nope, was never a man, just kind of looked like one. Um, the way that I conceptualize this is that I think of my external genitalia as a birth defect, which may be a little screwed up of me to say. Um, but that then caused a hormone imbalance, which caused me to develop in a way contrary to my gender. And that's basically how I think of it medically. Um, so the point is that I was endosex. So I was born with binary gender characteristics, sex characteristics, but they don't match my gender. And that can mean a lot of things because there are agender people out there who don't have a gender. There are non binary genders, which are not in the binary. There's gender fluid people, which fluctuate between one gender or another and possibly more. And I'm simple. I'm simpler than that, thank God, because that sounds exhausting. I'm a binary woman, endosex, as opposed to intersex. I was assigned male at birth based on the appearance of my genitals, and that's kind of a problem. So, yeah, I am a woman who was born with male typical parts, and it's been a problem my entire damn life. It's created a lot of pain for me, and that isn't everyone's experience. Some trans people don't experience gender dysphoria at all. I'm obviously very wrapped up in that particular perspective with this because that is my perspective, but that is not the experience that everyone has with this. I feel like this is becoming louder in my head as I approach surgery because I'm like, can we just get there, please? Yes. So the difference between intersex and transgender is that it's purely in sexual development, whether it follows a binary path or not. And some intersex conditions are really subtle. Some you've heard of and may not think of as an intersex condition. For example, PCOS is an intersex condition, as far as I understand it. And there's debate over whether gynecomastia is, which I had called them my starter set. So I've actually kind of wondered off and on pretty much my entire life if I was intersex, but I also kind of wonder if that was just the only explanation that I had available to me because trans didn't exist when I was younger. So I don't know. I did do a DNA test. Hashtag not sponsored. And I actually got locked out of my account because I marked myself as female because I am. And they were like, your test says you're genetically male, and we kind of want to know if you were expecting that. Or did we just break your entire life? It happens all the time. People will find out they're intersex because they're like, oh, I'm a woman, whatever. And then they do a DNA test and they're like, why do I have a Y chromosome? There's also more subtle versions of it where you can have two X chromosomes and an SRY gene and an activated sequence for that gene. And it's like, are you kidding me? Yeah, I mean, human sexual dimorphism is incredibly complicated. It's actually pretty remarkable that as many people fit endosex binary as do. Like, when you think about how many things are involved in sexual differentiation between human beings, it's impressive that it ever works. All right, let's see what question we have next. Well, we're back to chaser questions. If you were to have sex with a man after your surgery, what would happen to those fluids? I'm trying to translate this to keep it PG-13. Clearly, I think this is some chaser who's just like, yeah, I'm like, anonymous questions? Really? Oh, okay. Yes, that's your in, asking me anonymous questions on my YouTube channel. I have this one chaser on my YouTube channel who leaves a comment on every single video asking me since my first AMA, how do I talk to trans women? And I'm like, well, you're doing a bang up job so far, first of all. Um, no, I mean, to answer that question again, um, we are women. Talk to us like you talk to other women. It's not that hard. Okay. What was I saying? What was the question? Damn it, I scrolled past. Oh, what will happen to the fluids after? Okay. So I will not ever have a uterus, or at least not likely. Uterine transplants are becoming a thing, but they've only been performed in people who were born with ovaries. And those are kind of important because I don't have the gonads to generate pregnancy hormones on my own, and they're not quite replicable at this point, as far as I understand the science. Um, so that would be a challenge, first of all. Secondly, like, I don't think anyone is going to want to do that with current medical technology for this because I feel like we're just not there yet. And more realistically, for me personally, there's no way on earth I'm ever going to be able to afford that. And it's never going to be covered by insurance in my lifetime. So, yep. Wrapped up in my bottom surgery is the fact that I will be sterile after this. Um, anyway, not that that hurts at all. Again, editing. This is why I edit. So, since I do not have a uterus and will not likely ever have a uterus, most of those fluids will do what most of those fluids do in cis women or other people with vaginas. And I'm going to use the term fall out. That is basically what happens. There's a bit of cleanup involved in penetrative PIV sex. So if you didn't know that, now you do. There was a Reddit thread a while ago, like months and months ago, where they were like, "Women of Reddit, what do you wish your partner knew about sex?" And like they were like, "Yeah, it's a mess. We have to clean it out." And like, I was like, "Wait, what?" So that's a thing. It's not going to be that different for me. Basically, rather than having mine's going to be rounded at the end, so there's a possibility of creating like a bit of vacuum pressure there, which is a thing I'm going to have to worry about, especially during dilation, which is a whole other category that I'm really glad we didn't get into in this one. Yeah, so it's slightly different, but not so different as to not resemble cis PIV sex. So, yep, it's going to fall out of me to answer that question more directly. That's what happens. And anything that doesn't fall out of me is going to get absorbed by my body's natural, detritus removal procedures. The same way anything that gets under skin, like similar. Plus, I will be self-cleaning with peritoneum, so that's good. All right. Oh, well, I've answered this question already. What kind of hair removal will you be getting prior to your surgery? Laser hair removal I did today. I have to do 5 more sessions of that. Then I will follow up with electrolysis to kill off anything that remains that must go because this has to be correct or I'm going to have a much worse experience with surgery. Yep. So laser hair removal basically involves trimming the hair, which is fun, getting all up close and personal with myself, and then running a high-powered laser and just zapping it, flashing it at the hair, which burns the follicle to death over a larger area. So that's good. You get like about an inch round. I don't know what that is in centimeters. Look it up. Google is your friend. at a time. So that's a pretty large area relative to electrolysis, which is 1 hair at a time. So the way that electrolysis works is you stab a needle into the follicle, zap the hair with an electrical current, which makes like a popping sound in your face or your genitals or wherever you're getting it done. Super fun that. And then they pull the follicle out by the hair. And the bulb on the end of the follicle is thicker than the hair hole, so it hurts the entire time. Yeah, my existence is pain. Okay, this is the last one I'm going to answer tonight. So, yep. What kind of hair removal will you be getting prior to? No, I did that one already. Sorry. Where exactly do you have to have hair removed prior to your surgery? How do I answer this without being incredibly dysphoric about the whole thing and without crossing the PG-13 line? Okay. So the base of the shaft of the phallus over the scrotum down to the anus. We got through it, everybody. Figured anatomical terms was the best way to go. That will vary from surgeon to surgeon because some don't require you to do it at all, which is kind of scary to me because they do a technique called scraping, which necessarily leaves you with less sensation. And I'm like, no. Scraping is not one of those words that ever has a good connotation. There's never a time where you're like, scraping, yes, that sounds pleasant. Anyway, yeah, so that is where I have to have it done. That is where I had it done earlier today. It is incredibly invasive, unbelievably invasive. They are all up in your bits, and I don't even want to have those bits. But it is a means to an end that I definitely need to at least attempt because I have pretty conclusively determined that this situation, even with the right hormones, is not working out for me. So, yeah, that is what the deal is. Whew, we got through it. I still have more questions in the anonymous queue that I will be saving for next week's Q&A. I hope that I can gather a bit more of an audience for that one because I would really like to have more conversation here. I feel a little crazy talking to no one. Good stuff. Anyway, I will be back next week for more of your questions and more of my answers. And I will be back at some point on this channel to do proper videos again at some point. Hopefully, maybe, probably. So have a good night, everybody, and thank you for joining. Bye. That is really YouTube. You want to make me click twice. Make sure I really mean it. Bye.